And then also the Chakra Samvara teaching of yesterday, that will be put up in the coming weeks. We also are running our Tuesday book group as usual. And if you want to keep sort of on top of all of our various activities, please check out our newsletter. There's also we have a Lojong and Qigong program and lots of other things. So keep an eye on our newsletter for those details. In terms of what I want to share with you about Geshe-la's programming, so next month will be the Yamantaka commentary. We haven't decided yet, but I think that will probably be the third week. It'll probably be the third week of next month, just before we head off. And then our special event, which is going to be coming up, will be in June. And I believe that we've booked the venue for the second Saturday in June. So if you're local, you're welcome to come, but we will also stream this in real time only for those of you who are farther afield. So it will be the White Chakra Samvara Longevity Initiation. Now, this is a highest yoga tantra, but Geshe-la will give it in a way that it can be taken as a blessing by anybody. And I myself have just started kind of putting together the texts for this. And my idea is that we'll have a text for people with highest yoga tantra initiation. We'll also have a text for others who don't have that, who would still like to do the practice. So that will be our big special event coming up in June. And of course, through the summer, we will continue with this Sunday series on essential texts of Indo-Tibetan Buddhism. So I think that's all I wanted to share with you. Hopefully, if I missed out anything, Dave can chime in. But please grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee. I'll invite Geshe-la down and we'll get started in about 2 minutes. Oh, sorry. So hello and welcome everybody. Just a final check. Can everyone hear me? All right. And we'll do a sound check for Geshe-la.
Yeah, congratulations.
Is that audible? Okay, great. And the screen looks okay, so let us continue.
It's we.
Oh, this one.
Oh, that Kanga Trashi Dele to Taru Sosoka, Loju, Nole, Kangatani, Yapondoshi.
So, Tashi Dele, greetings to all. As always, Geshe-la hopes that your study, that your practice is all going well.
Ota, Loju, the Nole, she be Pache, Kangata, Newsro.
So, Geshe-la hopes that, Nyuru, Kari Nyuru.
Lojo Pache, because it took on you said
Lojingi Bashu Ale, Nyuru, Olosolos. Then?
Yeah, Newsro, Totanico, more than Roshi.
So, Geshe-la hopes.
See, Tachi.
There's a little wool in my ears this morning. So Geshe-la hopes that all of the obstacles to your study and practice are becoming fewer and fewer, and that you are getting more and more opportunities to be able to sort of meet with the conditions you wish for, with your aspirations in the Dharma. So all of us, we have various types of potentialities and latencies within us, right? And some of those potentialities or latencies are unwholesome. And although we might not be able to get rid of those completely, we definitely have the opportunity to decrease them. So, of course, part of our discussion when we gather together on occasions like this is learning to distinguish between false and positive mental qualities, learning to distinguish between those, and also understanding how the faults within our mind cause us harm and how the positive mental qualities benefit us, and then cultivating accordingly. And also, just to clarify, that's what we need to pay attention to, because although it appears that enemies are something that are outside ourselves, those enemies, those people we find difficult, they're not really our enemies, actually. Yeah, but that doesn't mean we are without any enemies at all. That means that we have inner enemies within ourselves, yeah? Loso. Yeah. So because we have these internal enemies, because we have these inner enemies, then we want to protect ourselves against them. So part of what we study with the Dharma is actually a type of inner armor that we're building to protect ourselves from those afflictions. So because we are aiming for liberation, right? We are aiming for liberation, moksha from samsara, but yet we still remain within samsara or cyclic existence. We are going to encounter all different types of ups and downs, all different types of obstacles. And for that reason, it is important to build this inner armor so that we can continue on the path. And if we recognize these positive mental qualities, we can see how each of those positive mental qualities can function as a protective inner armor. So then, of course, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas passed down these teachings, and then we have great luminaries like Lama Tsongkhapa, who, for example, in his composition, The Songs of Experience, said that out of all the different types of armor there are, the supreme armor is the armor of patience. So if we kind of think about those analogies, these make the teachings very easy to understand. And here the principle is simple, really. One of the most serious of the inner enemies is this enemy of anger.
다 여뻗다와 있는 당 아주 매돌 통한 노지 아주 통토야게 다시래 누아스.
And actually this kind of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
세노 매돌 따와 노지 아주 관계 따져서는 통토야게 다시래 누아스.
Right.
그래서 개가가 가지고.
And 매도통의 당신 캔서래 두셔직 매도니 제보터. So then those that enemy of anger, if we really pay attention, it will be as clear to our perception as flowers that are sitting like in front of our face.
야, 되면 백강하다가 말았어.
I thought I misunderstood something because I was like, flowers are usually something we associate as nice. So that's what the banter was going on. I was like, flowers, is it? Anyways, the point is like right in front of Geshe-la, like that, right? Sometimes the examples don't match up exactly. Yeah, so it's something that we can see in front of our face, right? When we develop those powers of observation, we can perceive the afflictions like anger very clearly. So because armor is actually the most pernicious of the afflictions, because it is one of the most harmful, this is why the inner armor of patience is praised as supreme. With this inner armor of patience developed to its full capacity, even if all of the human beings in the world were to rise up against us as enemies, because of this armor of patience, they would not be able to drag us into the unfortunate realms. So these practices of love, compassion, and patience, as we engage with these, we should understand that in the context of developing this inner armor. Yeah. So of course, love and compassion, these are minds that in their fulfillment bring great benefit to other sentient beings. But the thing is, actually, in the early stages of the development of love and compassion, we ourselves are the main beneficiary. Yeah. So another thing too is that when we develop that love and compassion, we are able to more have an understanding of others. So for example, when people in our family are causing us difficulty, we won't be as prone to become immediately angry because we understand actually they're in this state of suffering, in this state of confusion, and maybe that's why they're behaving in a particular way. Yeah. So for example, think of the mother of a child who has a severe mental illness. And that particular kind of mental illness may cause the child to be violent. But yet, no matter what the child does or how they behave, the mother, because of her close feeling of love for that child, will not respond in retaliation. So like that, right, when we develop this love or this compassion, which encompasses a broad number of beings, then no matter how others may kind of rise up or provoke us, right, we will not we will not respond in anger or retaliation. So with the practices of patience and compassion, right, one of the main benefits is that we can maintain a steady and even mind. We're able to guard our mind. So with love and compassion, actually, the first beneficiary of those practices is we ourselves, right? And similarly, with problems like anger and aversion, the first person that is harmed is we ourselves, not that external person. And so we have to explain that, right, that in the beginning stages, because people think, okay, I'm practicing love and compassion, but what do I get out of it? Because it's for other people, right? But this is actually incorrect, especially in the beginner stages. Love and compassion were the main person who benefits. So, of course, and this is not something, love and compassion, that requires faith in past and future lifetimes to be able to benefit from, right? If we are practicing love and compassion now, actually, what happens is we have a healthier mental state. With that mental health, we have a happier mind, and this is connected to improved physical health as well.
Yeah.
And so we want to develop these positive qualities in a very consistent way. The holy beings say that, you can't wear armor made out of paper into the battlefield. That is not going to be much benefit for you. You want to have armor that is made out of metal, and that is forged over time. And so, we ourselves can see within our practice, right? If we're having a lot of doubts, if our mind is very unsettled, if we're having all sorts of suspicions and mental projections happening, this is a sign that we need to pay more attention to developing that inner armor. So part of the reasons we gather for the study and practice is to develop these positive qualities, which will help us develop this inner armor. Once we have this inner armor in place, then even within samsara, within cyclic existence, the difficulties and disappointments, right, they will not be so easily be able to disturb us. So we are now going to do the we're going to do a preliminary meditation. So we'll do these meditations that are connected to the four formless realms. And the first of these is to think of a vast, empty space, limitless like the sky, nothing obstructing. So if we don't examine the phenomena that arise to us, then it will seem like any phenomena exists, that it really exists. But if we examine closely, we will see how phenomena do not exist exactly in the way that they appear, that they are empty of that inherent existence, empty like the sky.
Penangarosu kundro chembo sasaga yeji tsin noyi gala hotka tawa yena ngine page dembon rabon zuga yebe no chembo ji leg yares.
So if you think about the person or thing that you're angry with, you'll see that through the lens of that anger, the first perception of that object, it appears as something like really solid, as something really stable and existent. As we think, I don't like this person at all. It seems like there's a real solid person that we could point at.
Tawana tene mugasate gotere lapatere setere tene zacheba shigete tangi mugawate roje ko ropage tesni ba meba chano was.
So that person that we dislike so intensely, we should think, where is that person I dislike? Is it their head? Is it their hand? Is it somewhere within their mind? Which mind? And as we try to pinpoint that person that we dislike, what you'll find is that the intensity of that dislike will decrease.
Kunroga yajinayo ta tandri za pache ba nginen zhe zu sa me ba chi ta ta si wo chen du so much.
That object of anger, we will see that appearance of findability, of solidity, that there is nothing findable there at all.
Kunro koro ge ruj tandri chi ma tong zu sa me ba yi za yel de la ta de le ju no don ram ra ji yong ge de la yong ta ji ba ji jo re ko za wal zu ge yel zu ge sa me yi za no don ram ra de la ta yel zo de zu ge sa ya ma re so ba kunro la de no do yong ge was no do ge ye de yong kunro no ji ge ta ye de zo de zu ge sa ya ma re so ba.
So this anger arises from a mind of exaggerated perception or perception. But we can see that object that gives rise to our anger, that seems so solid and pinpointable, that there's nothing pinpointable there at all.
nona chi kanri ji ina yo ta ko poge zawa ina ta no no jin zu sa me ba ta ji ba yi so mo.
And this is true not only of that person that we get upset with, but of any phenomena. If we try to search for that findable thing that exists in the way that it appears, we will not be able to find it at all.
Tendri nets de shisu na nyamu kangi ge yetso den zhe ge chu sa me ba den ne me ba shomba do niji kaze komba yin ta yoran doji yo ba shi yung ge ta te za chen bo yin so ma.
As we come to understand this, we will see that similarly, all of these phenomena, they give rise to these minds, that they are not findable, right? That they are dependent arisings. And similarly, with this understanding, we can also come to a comprehension of how love and compassion may start small within the mind, but can be flourished.
tumbo rongi kuzu do te do ge ne ze ani ta tembo ya bo shi ba shi ne te ne ya la te no ji ba te ne ta je te pu zu ba de ba ji yong wa shi te ta yong wa ji so a ji te ta yo.
So think through these contemplations as I come to understand more about my relative and ultimate nature. May I be able to carry over that comprehension to the relative and ultimate nature of all phenomena. I request with single-pointed devotion the holy beings for their blessings to be able to do that. So we are on the praise to the Buddha. Tumba chomden de shin che ba zha chom ba yong da ba zo be sang ge zhe ba dang shab su den ba de wa she ba ye den chen ba che bu du we ka lo ju rwa la na me ba la dang mi nam gi ten ba sang ge chom de pe jawa shakya tu bala chaze lo che de gyatso ji ho tenpa chomden de tishin sheba cha chomba yanda ba zube sangye sheba dang shabsu tenpa dewa sheba shiten chenpa chebu duwe kalo jorwa lana meba ladang mi namgi tenpa sangye chomden de pe jawa shakya duwa la chaze lo che de gyatso ji ho tenpa chomden de tishin sheba cha chomba yanda ba zobe sangye sheba dang shabsu tenpa dewa sheba shiten chenpa chebu duwe kalo jorwa lana meba ladang mi namgi tenpa sangye chomden de pe jawa shakya tuba la chaze lo che de gyatso ji ho. Do a brief mandala. So ji pe ji ju ji me do zhang ji ra lin ji ni de gyang ba di sangye shin de me de bo wa ge zhou gu nang da ji la je ba shu yi dang guru ratna mendala kam nirya daya mi. Refuge and bodhicitta.
Alatin la ya. Che
dan so gi chen nam la jang chu ba du da ni gyao su chi da gi chen yen gi be su nam gi zhou la pen je song gi zhu ba shu che dan so gi chen nam la jang chu ba du da ni gyao su chi da gi chen yen gi be su nam gi zhou la pen je song gi zhu ba shu so gi chen nam la chong chu ba do da ni gyao su chi da gi chen yen gi be su nam gi zhuo la ben che song ge zhou ba shu. Yeah, so we'll continue. So also just to go back to that preliminary meditation where we talk about having this kind of awareness that all phenomena are empty or vast like the space and sky. This isn't kind of emptiness in its full meaning. This is a very sort of, we could say, rough, coarse approximation of emptiness. All right. And so actually this particular, that sky-like or space-like emptiness meditation is connected to rebirth in Tambodirwa, in the first of the formless realms. But the people who practice that meditation to be reborn in the formless realm, of course, those are not the inhabitants of the formless realms. They are like people in people and devas who are abiding in the desire realm, right? Who are practicing like that. Right. And the other thing to understand too is that through these formless realm meditations, even beings who are inhabiting the desire realm, they can experience the bliss of the formless realm. Ale sukmekam gine so So this carries over to the practice that we know of as calm abiding, shine, right? So actually the mind of shine is not a mind of it is not a mind of the desire realm, right? It is a mind of higher realms. Right. So, however, the sort of 9 stages that lead up to that calm abiding, these are said to be practices of the desire realm. Yeah, and so those 9 abidings that lead to that state of tranquil abiding, this is a practice of humans and devas of the desire realm, right? It is not practiced by beings of those higher realms. Gupati yang de semres ko sem kongmares. Disabumendis. Ganso negur yorerwa shine nangla. Negu shine redwa ine good and so de kam davore. Ngachana je de kam re gupati.
Mara. Ta goyorwa.
Ta gurwa. Ta guchasangwa de semre.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And so the other thing also is that at the time that the Buddha came into the world, there were many practitioners of other spiritual traditions, right, of ancient India, who were achieving high levels of single-pointed concentration up to the 8th level of abiding. Right. So just to understand, this practice of single-pointed concentration isn't something exclusive to our tradition or to those other spiritual systems, right? It is something that is, shared in common.
간지 가르치는 요래 제가 가지도 지바라와스 다 세계 주산 저기 주사지 요나 주의지 요나 가디이나 텔라테네 때는 오토 모모 텔 때는 예모모모 다 텔펜 레야는 만들었어 만노지 배도 만들 파자기.
Right. So then why does this wish arise to be able to practice a single pointed concentration? Because we know if we just follow where our mind leads us, wherever it points us to, if we don't try to stabilize the mind, we're going to have more afflictive minds arising. That's going to lead to suspicions and mental projections, and our mind will become more and more disturbed. So that's why this practice, right, of stilling the mind so that we're not just kind of going in the direction that all those projecting thoughts are point. So then not following wherever those projecting thoughts lead us, right? Relaxing the mind. 타tru사성. 양결승당.
제가 요 셀은 저거 주사 공유면 기와랜데 스노도 몸몸도 녀몸몸도 데이터 나가노지 다따니 레레서 되기.
If we're able to relax the mind and create the space in the mind that is empty like sky or like space, right? There will be less disturbances, less distractions, and the mind will be more peaceful.
아니 즈 마체가 녀모 강가. 네 즈 마체 단 데비가 녀모 가리나 요토기와 말이야.
And on the basis of this practice, then actually what we can do is create a mind where the afflictions, the coarse afflictions of the desire realms cannot disturb us. Ale. And so there are those also in our own tradition, practitioners who have entered the paths who are practicing these formless meditations, right? So it is something practiced even by the higher beings. So we will take a moment to develop our motivation. Think I'm bringing the 4 elements within my body into balance, and in this way establishing a sense of peace, a sense of calm. So I think I'm going to tap into that fundamental mind whose nature is one of neutral equanimity. As I tap into that neutral equanimity, then one becomes more peaceful, relaxed.
Lucia Zumazaya chet, Unjunga Tonita, Agenda Kolayota, Jutumache, Unjunga Lata, Trunkal Setani, that's Gazis.
So then think, in order to steady the body and the mind, I am going to bring my mindfulness, my awareness to the breath. We can do a 9-point breathing exercise, and there's also an exercise of just counting the inhalations and exhalations. So what we want to do then with the second type is to just think, breathing out, I'm aware I'm breathing out. Breathing in, I'm aware I'm breathing in. And count that as 1, 2, and so on, without distraction.
Se lele don chomebe chowa noto kangata chewu nya chujinrawo mato koroso pasju temata lekameva otasi woi somaro.
So when we establish this relaxed state of mind, it's like a perfectly calm pond or lake. There may be distracting or unhelpful minds, but they are just like minnows swimming beneath the surface. They can't disturb the surface of the water.
Se lumate se koro rojete pe saji tsuma saji pusutsuba zado shido medodo 시도라 소바 가르다바 이나 시 주주다 그게 사진자고 예대 시 주주다 드리지요 소바지.
So think that as we experience the fundamental mind, its neutral, equanimous nature, that it also possesses these qualities of being clear and knowing. Because of these qualities of being clear and knowing, this mind can perceive perfectly, in a focused way, the flowers, trees, fruits, any phenomena that we wish to examine.
루제 강갈 퍼게 대시 제이 사회부터 부수수바지 다다가 고추기 소만도.
So think within this mind, which is clear and knowing, I am going to plant a positive seed, which is something that will bring a harvest of benefit to both myself and others.
소소 그녀 어다 대와 너 누가 때는 매봐 누가 주주니 저때 매봐 누가 때는 매봐 어다 니가 대와 타도 대와 강가 대반 그반 뭐지 루지 유주다 내한테 지바이 지바요 소마도.
So as we think about ourselves, we think about those close to us. And finally, not just those close to us, but all other sentient beings. We see that we share the same wish to be completely free of suffering, even the slightest discomfort. And we share the same wish to be able to achieve not only a lasting, stable happiness, but every small instance of happiness leading to that.
근데 내츠도 여바 지보만 봐. 근데 내츠도 루루 소소가 다 롱기 마로 롱기 다 저기 바티다 르두리 바 가와다 이나요. 게 첨보지요 소만도.
So not only is that the situation of myself and other sentient beings, but thinking about this, contemplating this, makes me realize that I have a responsibility, to lead not only myself away from suffering and towards every happiness, but also to help all sentient beings achieve that.
유주 된다 대화지 다 롱기 저기 대체도 다 손지가 공부 도바샤기 손베톤이 전주세.
In order to bring every last of those beings to the state of lasting happiness free from suffering, I must achieve the state of Buddhahood, bring forth the mind of bodhicitta.
녀석은 내가 요션바도 니지시에니다 고추이니다 야 쇼주 셈베사 소지는 어떻게 할까 나로서도 미르와 땡데 용거래.
It was well in the hell realms that the bodhisattva who became the Buddha first brought forth the minds of immeasurable love and compassion. If this is possible even within those difficult states, then certainly as a human being I can bring forth this mind. So we'll pause there.
어떤게 전에 가서 다디야 드모 고사로 다마서 드모 시엔드 그만데 마도. 좋아? 뭐지 에 집어지 근데 거 공부하자는 거 근데 그거
So we should tell a story. And Geshe says he's aware that often what happens is he says, oh, there's a story, and I'll tell it later, and then later doesn't happen. So he thought, okay, we'll tell the story right from the earlier part of class. So this is a story. So this is a story about, it's not funny that the man had to walk a stick. This is a story about a man who had to walk with a stick, right? Beba, ale. Kadiyene chingi olare. Right. And as he was walking with this stick, there came a point where he was actually crushing a frog beneath his walking stick. Right. And so a strange thing happened that as this frog was stuck under his stick, the man heard a holy being teaching the Dharma. And so he became sort of immersed in listening to the Dharma and was not moving, was remaining in that position. And the frog itself was also a spiritually sensitive being. So although it was enduring tremendous discomfort from this stick on its back, it thought, I'm not going to cry out, because he's listening to something important, right? He's listening to the Dharma. Geshe says he realized maybe these stories are sometimes hard to believe, but they have a good message, so bear with him. And so in the scriptures, the story goes that actually out of those two beings, right, they both achieved liberation. But it was the frog who achieved liberation first, due to his patience in wanting that man to hear the Dharma. Yeah, so this is one of the important stories from the scriptures. And this is why, it is important to respect even the smallest of sentient beings, because some of them possess tremendous qualities. Yeah, and so there's a story of a teacher and a snake that maybe we'll tell later. Yeah. So at least one story for now and one for later. So, of course, connected with that motivation, as we continue with the teaching, what we should understand is that we have a responsibility, right? We ourselves have a responsibility for the happiness of all sentient beings. And if we achieve moksha, liberation, only for ourselves, will be very limited, actually, in the benefit that we can bring to other beings. And similarly, those bodhisattvas, especially the bodhisattvas on the later grounds or stages, they possess many qualities and capacities to benefit sentient beings. In the higher levels, some qualities quite similar to a Buddha, but yet they haven't approached a Buddha's full capacity to benefit others. And so for an example, right, these foe destroyers who have defeated the afflictions, highly realized beings, they possess a measure of clairvoyance, but their clairvoyance is limited, right? So that limits in how they can help. Right. And because they haven't engaged in all of the sort of vast preliminaries that a being who achieves Buddhahood engages in, that the clairvoyance that they achieve is limited compared to that of a Buddha.
다 손지는 다 말이 바쳐도 지바 용조 좀서 사이서 다 간조 카투다와 노지 메도 될다와 노지 다 차종도 요세요.
A Buddha, on the other hand, because they have not only defeated the afflictions, but they have also defeated the imprints or latencies left behind, the clairvoyance that they possess is limitless and all perceptive, and they can perceive any event of the times like that flower in front. And so if this is the type of result that the practitioner is aiming towards, then logically it follows that with such a huge result that many causes will have to be accumulated in stages. And so what we want to do then is see this text, or any text we're studying really, as like a mirror. It is a mirror that will illuminate, right, the positive and unwholesome qualities within our own minds so that we can cultivate. So, for example, when the text is explaining the faults of samsara, right, we should relate that. We should think of it as like a mirror and relate that to our own experience. What are the faults, the difficulties that I am undergoing within samsara? Similarly, when the text is talking about the positive mental qualities, we should use that as a mirror to examine ourselves and say, which of these qualities have I started to develop and which am I really missing? So now we are going to turn to the text. Kunchuk sumla sorry. Okay. So just give me a moment. So we are on page 118 in the text for those of you who have it, and we are on the paragraph that begins, our teacher of refuge, the Buddha. The Buddha who has exceptional qualities. Okay.
초동 소제 녀무셰지 예나고 녀보 사바 담바 녀서도 통이 로제 담바 투지라 추인 온게 통소인 딩가다 마터슈 라르 제도 체나고 시머르와 시비
디샤라
됐고
알았어
디샤게임베
또 디기레 또
녀비 또지 좀비 친구 고바동 고데시바 자이에데동 봄비에데 시샤와데 토지
All right, so we're going just one line back. The purpose of calling the three jewels an infallible refuge and so forth is as it is explained in greater detail in the later section on refuge. Our teacher of refuge, the Buddha, who has exceptional qualities, is not a Buddha who from the outset was free from all faults and possessed all qualities. Rather, he was like us, possessing many faults. If our continuum of consciousness meets with the right conditions, the afflictions of attachment and aversion will generate. Yet through the power of a true path that sees reality directly, a new antidote, arising in our continuum, even though its opposing class of contradictory factors might meet with the right conditions, it will make them unable to generate. Due to that, one attains cessations or true cessations of phenomena that are destroyed through the power of the antidote that is known as the qualities of separation or the qualities of abandonment.
오다미한테 그냥 계좌 무엇이게 하면도 야스 카시원도 왔어. 다 변한 나로서가 어느 손지에서나. 아니 돈보는 손지에 말에 손지 접아래. 참아 접아래. 참아 논데노. 시트 자치모.
세마 추바레서나.
참아 접아. 재미시오.
¿Cómo?
야 된다 된다거든. 손지 세야돼. 돈번에 손지 말에 갈래 손지 잡아래.
So we should understand that a Buddha, that this enlightened being, does not start out as a Buddha from the beginning. That becoming a Buddha is something that happens gradually in stages.
다때 할래지 저거 요래. 어레 마도 돈번에 손지 세요소나. 되니 저도 제일 마디게 손지 세자가. 되니
If they were a Buddha from the beginning, right, this wouldn't make sense logically, because then this result of Buddhahood would have to be something that arises in the absence of causes and conditions. And we know that's not possible.
어다 간조 때 말에 손지 세야돼. 돈보 손지 빼나 더 temba 이나라 자와 셴바 지스도마 강강 간조도 지바. 얼레 돈보와 지요래.
So all of the beings that we look to as great enlightened beings now, whether we think of the Buddha, whether we think of Maitreya, of Tara, and so forth, all of them started out as ordinary sentient beings, just like ourselves.
어다 저거 되었어. 다 간조도 녀도요 다 셔와 버게 때 뭐 쉬유하세요래. 스타님벌.
Oh, right. And so there were also many rebirths where we were perhaps companions of these beings who are now enlightened. We were close to them.
다 가서 그만 뭐 시에서 봐서 손지 또 뭔고 주사디 요가다 때 뭔고 줘야돼. 녀석에 내려 연바 간저 대신 뭐 자차와래.
And we know that this is possible, right? Based upon the various narratives from the scriptures. For example, the one that was mentioned today, where the being who became the Buddha first brought forth love and compassion while in the hell realm.
다 갈래 간저 노지 시인유를 또다 예때 뭐를 또 왔다 또니 다시 전에라. 다 갈래 아니 얘네서 대망에서도 또 봐. 지금 왔으면.
So then gradually, these beings, through reducing all of their faults and developing all of their qualities, then they were able to enter. 가르톱사송?
대망에서도 또 봐. 당기 드늘래 송아시.
덴방어수 토파.
야. 녀보사바 대망에서도 통이 런지.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Sorry. I just want to see exactly where we are. Possessing many faults of the continuum.
Nyambosaba.
Yeah. Nyambosarpa dene ngansu gyula yongi yores rua dene nganso Ale ngansu nyomong dinso kie tugi omare segire tua.
Se shiwas nyembo saba dembangesa to tunyengesa to pata tesa ujaga mandu.
Right. Nyembo sarpa sana karere?
Tumanyengesa to pata.
Ale
Sujina to boni ya marawas.
Right. So Geshe says that here, when it talks about the power of a true path that sees reality directly, a new antidote, this is the direct realization of emptiness. And this is something that being who rises to Buddhahood achieves, right? It's not something that they have from the beginning.
Right.
Right. So what happens is, first the being will develop definite emergence or renunciation of samsara. On the basis of this renunciation, they are able to enter the path, and gradually they are able to come to see or understand emptiness. It doesn't start with a direct realization. It starts with an understanding. Yeah. So we understand that this realization of emptiness, this is not something that happens on the first two of the five paths, the paths of accumulation and preparation, right? On those two paths, then the practitioner can only have an understanding of emptiness that is a conceptual mind. This direct realization of emptiness is only something that occurs on the path of seeing. Yeah. So we can think about that sort of conceptual mind which is developing an understanding of emptiness. If we think of emptiness as an object, it's like it is covered in a white cloth. And that white cloth may be very threadbare, it may be very thin, so we can get an idea of what is underneath it, but we can't see it completely.
다 윤조 거자 다 손주 손바도 니지 거자 디우 슈지자.
Right.
아니 호또 많이 주고요 뭐지?
Jukum.
주고 또 많이 주고체.
Jukumche.
아니
Right.
오 지토 넘바 맞아 비카라.
Right.
손바도 니지도 대지고.
Right.
근데라 때는 갈래 티노한테 봐.
So what happens is the bodhisattva, many of them will practice in this way. When they are engaged in placement meditation upon emptiness, they are in meditative equipoise, focusing single-pointedly on that. When they come out of equipoise during the meditation break, they are cultivating the qualities of love and compassion. And slowly, what happens is that in addition to developing those method practices, then the emptiness becomes more and more perceptible, like the cloth is slowly being pulled away. And when they get to that point of the direct realization of emptiness, it is as if the cloth that was obscuring has been removed completely. Then at that moment, they are able to see emptiness completely. There's not going to be a more refined perception than that direct realization. And it is at that moment that within the three jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we often say the Dharma is the actual refuge, the most important one, that one has brought forth the Dharma jewel. One has brought forth the Dharma jewel within oneself. So of course we say the Dharma is the most important of the three jewels because it states very clearly, right, that the Buddha is the teacher or the profounder of the Dharma from within the three jewels, and the Dharma itself is the actual refuge. Right.
Okay.
So the Ming, which is so the Dharma is the actual medicine that will heal us. Yeah.
The
Buddha is the doctor, right, who can suggest a medicine, but the Dharma is the actual medicine that heals us itself. Yeah. Once the bodhisattva achieves that direct realization of emptiness, they are an Arya bodhisattva or superior bodhisattva, which means they are no longer subject to the sufferings of ordinary birth, aging, disease, and death, right? So this is a great accomplishment. Yep. Right. And this is confirmed in the Uttaratantra Shastra, or the Sublime Continuum of Maitreya, where he says that once the Arya state is achieved, once that emptiness has been realized, then the sufferings of old age, disease, and death are completely cleared away. They're completely abandoned. And also the countless karmas that one has accumulated since limitless previous rebirths, these are no longer able to bring forth a result. Right. Yeah. Ale ngosu topa tambo gokden tobyo mares. Lamdin tobyo mares. Gokden tobyo mares. So at the moment of this direct realization of emptiness, the practitioner has realized true cessations. The practitioner has realized true paths, lamden tosun, gokden tomasun, but they have not yet realized true cessations. But they have achieved the Dharma jewel within themselves.
shalopi chares gojamasos.
So it's like the main troublemaker, which in this instance is the ignorance grasping at the self. It has been expelled from the space of our mind, but the door has not yet been shut behind it.
다 띠용조 고작이야레스.
So then the practitioner has to meditate again.
다 리보 마르 타스더니. 다
그래, 곡된 타리고 말했어. So just to be clear, true cessations are not far away, right? They're very close to that point. They're just not quite yet there.
다 용조 고작을 텔리죠 다 알리죠 니빠 먼저와 니빠 체른도소나. 체네다 니빠 지가야겠다. 니빠 뭐지 꽈서나. What? 젠담을 쳐봐요.
켄담을 yeah.
아니 나저 말이 발 내가 매바 슈첸보다 내가 매바 조토소나.
Yeah.
아니 고대세 토용 거야.
Right. Di apokoman son tanzema ribangan so chirula pizza son yine lega chemi tu padabochi.
이나요 단단 니빠 꽈 토야게 니빠 차소 토야 말 다 된다.
Right. So what happens at this point is that one has expelled the ignorance grasping at the self, but yet one has not yet completely eliminated all of its power, right? That's why the door is not closed. As one continues to meditate, one accomplishes this. After that is accomplished, one achieves true cessations. Dene gokten karila tene chungore sepulamna kandislak. Right. So I was asking Geshe-la, how'd you go from that true paths to that true cessations? How does that unfold, right? And Geshe-la was saying, it's just merely, so you have that initial direct realization of emptiness, and that's the true path. But then you meditate continuously, and through familiarity or habituation, true cessation is achieved relatively quickly. Right. And so what happens is, whatever sort of conditions you meet, they're no longer able to activate this mind of ignorance. At that point, true cessations have been achieved. And at that point, one has achieved the supreme expression of the inner Dharma jewel, the Dharma jewel to be realized, because one has realized both true paths and true cessations. Right. And Geshe-la said that another thing is also to keep in mind is contextually, we can talk about different types of true cessation, right? Different like levels, which you might explore later. Did gokten tobne dene lam tempa. Yeah.
no chingu bagum gudeshi ba tai de do pumbi de shi sha wa de toji den dai chingu ba ne de shine da du lo je den bi to je zo ji je zo de sun yi ce ji ga da ma to shu ju bu ya to bo do go bu che ren ne ren ji bo de ni ba cha do ji ba de ne zhong bi gu ba ta du sun ji bu je pumbi de ne de je bi
Yeah, okay. So, having actualized such a cessation, however much strength of the true path increases, it will result in the objects of abandonment of the opposing class of contradictory factors, objects of abandonment of the path of seeing and objects of abandonment of the path of meditation being abandoned in stages. Once they have all been abandoned, the ultimate cessation, that is the destruction of the two obscurations, together with their imprints, a Buddha's quality of abandonment, is actualized. So she's saying a Buddha's quality of abandonment. I would just say abandonment can also be understood as cessations here. That makes it clear, is actualized. Thus, a Buddha who has exhausted all faults and possesses all qualities arose only through the power of practicing the Dharma jewel that includes the holy dharmas of true cessations and true paths. Yeah. Karepong? Topong sena? Oh, los tongpong. Right. Then right. Then they tongpong karere. Right. Okay. So we see that there are different objects of abandonment as one is practicing on the path of seeing and on the path of meditation. Dundag dire tonglang dong gomlang kapla pangja mendrawa ye. Stile la.
Yeah.
Loso.
This one, or that is a two look at good ganga, two boma to golog puja quato.
Right. So the true cessations that are achieved on the path of seeing, they can only defeat the objects of abandonment of the path of seeing. They cannot yet defeat the objects of abandonment on the path of meditation, right? So it's a progression.
다 골로코 디세림보 이자 산이파 선바지와 나와 주파 사죠 요와스 가정마.
Right.
주지스미 사죠.
주 로아.
산이파네 더니
니파네 카와바데.
니파네 제와바다.
Chubae. Right.
골로가.
Gomlam. So the path of meditation, Geshe-la is explaining, out of the 5 paths, this has quite a long progression because effectively the practitioner is going from the second bhumi or ground of the bodhisattva all the way to the 10th. Nipane Chubabardu.
다 대관계 부자 파츠마존은 구대 토소나.
Right.
손지세 잡아래.
So as the practitioner progresses on these paths and is able to abandon more and more of the objects of abandonment of the path of meditation, eventually all of those objects are abandoned completely, and at that point one achieves Buddhahood.
당에 내설 된다 깨져 쓰고 시나. 나로서 세디가. 나로서 세대 로데 차위하래.
Lamdun. Yeah.
나로서 세게 뚱반이데 구대 차도야래.
So one way of expressing this is that our mind itself transforms into true paths, and the emptiness of our mind transforms into true cessations. This is one way of explaining it.
당간조 뚱반이에서 가디 또 토소나 세대 치게 주장도 그래.
When that direct realization of emptiness is achieved, then according to the bare definition, then one's mind has achieved the actual Dharma jewel.
다 던지게 세대 에 제인다 먼저 태나요 단지 슈체워 슈체워 드시면 더 기차소나.
Right.
세게 뚱반이든 고대 차소나.
It's because that mind, no matter what sort of conditions it meets, that the ignorance grasping at a self cannot be activated, right? Then that mind is said to have achieved true cessations.
So
that's why we say that we actualize the Dharma jewel, and the Dharma jewel that is actualized is the actual refuge.
다 깔래 가셔도 가와요 알세나. 세대 곡니 보래.
Right. Right. Yeah. So as we discuss this further, we'll come to a difficult point. And this difficult point relates to how the mind itself is impermanent, it's changing from moment to moment, but how the emptiness of the mind is something that is said to be permanent. So how do we reconcile that? So it's like there's this Dharma jewel, but from one side it's impermanent, and from the other side it's permanent. So how do we grapple with that one? Yeah. So our mind, which realizes the Dharma jewel, the mind is something that is changing from moment to moment, just like those flowers. But the emptiness of the mind, this is something that is permanent and unchanging. But from abandoning the objects of abandonment within the mind, then the emptiness of the mind can be refined. Kan this the sem gi pangjedin so pangne deni sengi tompani yarge jogire ine ko takbare.
Mimi yajin roseyo mares.
Ale.
Tenda mandawa. Kol me mandawa. Ude yemba do mai basade.
Right. Then So from clearing away these objects of abandonment within the mind's emptiness becomes becomes true cessation. So this, Geshe-la said, is a very subtle point, and it is a great source of contention amongst the various philosophical schools and sects of Buddhism. Right. And so the people, but when you break this down a little bit, when we think about the aspect of the mind's emptiness, you see that the people who say that you're already Buddha or that there's a Buddha within yourself, you can't just dismiss that as ridiculous, right? Because it's not. There's a reason that they say that. Yeah. So because the emptiness of the mind is something permanent, it's not impermanent and changing moment to moment like the mind itself, then it is like there is something that is always there, a Buddha that is always there from that perspective. Right. But what we're saying here is that actually that we are refining the mind itself to remove the adventitious defilements, and once this happens, then the emptiness of the mind becomes So through removing those adventitious defilements, then the emptiness of the mind becomes a true cessation. So there's still a progression. When you realize the emptiness of your mind, you won't have to worry about all of these philosophical things because you'll have experienced it. But yeah, it's not an easy point to understand. So we're just going back one, sorry. Thus, the Buddha who has exhausted all faults and possesses all qualities arose only through the power of practicing the Dharma jewel that includes the two holy dharmas of true cessations and paths. Based on that, the Dharma jewel is the most important and more important than even the Buddha.
So this is clear, right? The Buddha jewel, right, depends upon that being practicing the Dharma jewel and realizing it to become the Buddha jewel. So this is why we say the Dharma jewel is most important. So Geshe is saying that the emptiness of the mind becomes true cessations. But even within the three seats, there are different interpretations. So maybe for folks who are less familiar, when Geshe says the three seats, he means that the three Gelug monastic universities, Drepung, Sera, and Gyanden. But Geshe said parsing those hairs is helpful, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is understanding that we need to work on our mind to remove the adventitious defilements and realize its emptiness.
So
Geshe would say, what his response would be is that there's a Buddha within us, right? Okay, there's a Buddha within all sentient beings are the Buddha from one perspective, but yet because of these adventitious defilements, all these beings that are supposedly Buddhas, they're still within samsara. They're still experiencing the suffering of the lower realms. So even though they might be Buddha or have a Buddha inside them, at the moment, it's not benefiting them much. Yeah. So for this reason, right, in our school, we don't say that we are Buddhas or that there is a Buddha there. We say that there is the potential for Buddha. There is the lineage to become the Buddha. So you see with His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama's gloss commentary, based on that, the Dharma jewel is the most important, even more important than the Buddha. So really making that clear.
샤예 동바 된노라 더 디니 데네즈데 손지지 마도 바던 게샤도 삐니 신념비 대바 홍롱와시 년도 동라 샹게 데노 지비츠지 도긴 게샤스 녀스더 셰요 녀미 미바 두동와시 시비티 샤네 대도 제제 니스니 데 제와 쟁아유 샤네 샤 노칼라 포와터 드자 지선즈비 텐도 쳔바 텐데지 진이 인비 권심메바 조시바 대인도 더와 유시 명워조 만이비 대도 탐바시 니바 공수.
So, we are continuing. So now we are going from the 14th, His Holiness the 14th, to the Great Fifth's text. Since correctly accomplishing that dharma too depends on trainee and non-trainee sangha, first prepare yourself with the vivid thought, from this day until I become a Buddha, I request the holy objects of refuge to be my protectors and defenders. Through the power of a yearning conviction that they have visibly come as my protector in a pleased manner, since they are endowed with the exceptional qualities of omniscience, compassion, and power, they come for the sake of looking after disciples, like a bird soaring through the sky. This is the nature of dependent origination, and it was therefore said, whoever places foremost importance in conviction, in front of them a sage remains.
어떤데 왔어. 어다 샤니 타니 야 견주 서춘이 샤니 타디 손지세야 돼. 나로서가 다 대화 퍼갱 이네 버스 주바지 요바이나. 아니 너다 너로 코르시다 바존지 다 따바존지 세나 문두. 너로 요용하래 마도 코 하커서로 갈레카보존이 되게 요마래.
So it is said that if we have true refuge in the three jewels, and especially conviction in the Buddha jewel, and we invite that Buddha to come before us, then because of the Buddha's capacity, the Buddha is right there, right? It is not as if they need to come from
They
are there the moment we bring forth that mind of faith. They are right there.
So Geshe
said that the bird soaring in the sky, this is one of these examples that doesn't exactly match up. It maybe gives you an idea, but it doesn't exactly match up. Right. Right.
손지게 세요는 손지 요용하러 왔어.
Som metok di sangue restava lá que tu cara isso aqui ó. Ale pegou tão sontrami.
단 되게 ale. 메메. 예. 세게 따와 손지 세다가로 요하래. 손지게 세게 매도 따가러 왔어. 통거러 와.
Yeah.
손지게 세게 매도 통거러 와.
Yeah. Sorry. Kale. Sangue di cometok Sigidua, metok tongidua.
Meto tonga iza setagaru yoares.
Okay, so so I just had to get Geshe to slow down for a moment, so now I've got it. So when a Buddha uses their holy eye perception to look at an object of the flowers, for example, the Buddha's mind is exactly where those flowers are. The mind travels to where those flowers are. There's no obstruction. So at that moment where those flowers are, because the Buddha has perceived that, the Buddha's holy body, speech, and mind abide where those flowers are. Kusum, tuksum, right. So because of how a Buddha's mind functions, they become of one essence. So because the way our sense perceptions work, ourselves and even higher bodhisattvas and so forth, because when we perceive an object, it can't become of one essence with our mind, we can't travel instantaneously to where that object is, right? There is an obstruction. A Buddha doesn't experience that. So the holy body, speech, and mind are of one taste for a Buddha. And this is an explanation that you find given extensively in the Tantras. So there's many sort of stories and incidents of where somebody merely recollects the Buddha and the Buddha is there instantaneously to provide help.
this one. Tata Pizata.
Losa.
The Taring is in Shaya Sandya Bala. Sunga Tiju Tar, Tiju Nom Tar, Miko Tipa Jem Zeme, Doluton de Universal Lesson Dotsoshi. Meba Shanti Si Moto Jeba, Machacha Gokeba, on the Seto.
Loso. The kind of Pesha Mepegi, Ketcha di. So, this indicates that one should definitely have a factually concordant, non-superficial conviction. Having recognized this, in order to visualize the object of refuge, although an elaborate session as contained within secret tantric texts was not written, a mere practice related to the sutric tradition of many recitations of refuge becomes a way to prevent idle chatter.
So
mere words, mere recitations of the refuge formula, right? These can become a means to stop gossip or other useless speech, but it will not, mere words do not become an excellent practice of refuge. So we are stopping here. For those of you who have the text with you, we are halfway down page 119, and we will pick up there next time.
So Yeshua said that, explaining the importance of emptiness and how this relates to the true Dharma jewel, then we will turn to another text on emptiness. So we are going to turn to the text of Recognizing My Mother, an experiential song of the view. And for those of you, so this text, unfortunately, you have to, not unfortunately, but you do have to purchase it. It's not freely available. This one, Manoshi has placed the link on our webpage. So if you'd like this text, it's freely available.
This one.
Loso. Sumparwa Jojo Tenjung.
Oh, that is. Sumparwa.
Yeah.
Jojo Tenju di good nebi mim de nyomos.
Ale, Tamboni.
Oh,
so we are on verse 3 in this text. She is, so Geshe-la's read half the verse. She is perhaps that is and is not, quietly spoken by my brother's dependent arising.
Jojo Tenju di good nebi is go sade. Go sade, Nanzu Jaja so yorwa.
Yeah.
Nyenjo, Kunju,
Shindu
Kunju.
Right. Right. So quietly, so here, so it's not immediately apparent in the English translation. Sometimes we just don't have an exact English word that matches the Tibetan. So there is a feeling of like quietly spoken by my brother dependent arising. So Geshe said that anyways, the Tibetan version of this is pointing that when we speak of different types of phenomena, we can speak of 3 types of phenomena: the manifest, hidden, and extremely hidden phenomena.
This one. Ota Jaja so no Jaja Nyenju Tenganzo.
Right. So manifest phenomena, these are things that can appear to us, things that we can see clearly or that we can develop an understanding of from having them explained to us. They are manifest. In other words, they are evident, not difficult to perceive. Right. So it's a little bit like, think about a country in the world that you maybe wanted to visit to but haven't been to yet. So if you actually manage to go to that country, it becomes a manifest phenomena for you, right? But also if someone were to explain what that country is like, or maybe show you different images of it, you would also be able to come to an understanding of it. Loso. Yep.
This one. That there, Nina can the Ido Maisate, Ruru Sosogata, Ripapigetoni, Jevashenela, and that two shows.
So the Buddha said that I have proclaimed countless dharmas, and this number 84,000 is given. I have proclaimed 84,000 different
dharmas. And so what is or is not, you should come to understand that through your own reasoning. So rigpala tene haku.
제가 시에는 되니 좀 니네스 가르는데 됐다는 열레시 가르마도 가 소지다 첨보레 되지 말이
So you have to use your own reasoning to discriminate which of those teachings are true because they are true for you. Do not just say, oh, this must be true because the Buddha has proclaimed it and the Buddha is an exalted being, for example.
어떤 도코로스 게노다고 케노치 게노 초로스 있다 디게 게노 뭐 요아로 왔어. 게노 초로스 이나는 개파진다 이나요래. 아까 셀 제바 써셔요.
Right. So, so there's a teaching where the Buddha exhorts the bhikshus. He says, bhikshus, test the teachings, test whatever the Buddhas or other teachers proclaim, just as you would test gold through the three means. So I think the three means of testing gold are rubbing it, cutting it, and melting it. Sorry, apparently you didn't say what the three were yet. I thought Geshe-la did. My bad. Right. So once you have cut it, rubbed it, and heated it, and you determine this is really gold, then you accept it, right? In the similar way, once you have truly examined the teachings, then you accept and practice them. Yeah, ale, loso. So this is quietly spoken by the brother dependent arising. So connected with this, we talked about how you have to check things like you would test gold. So Geshe was saying one of his friends says that the Buddha's teachings are also really valuable if you want to trade in precious metals, I guess. Yeah.
단데 zema yido ma chewar le lasho te karta garse kop to lozo menu chu gares.
Yeah. And so we know that, for example, if you are purchasing gold from a goldsmith, then, the easiest way to check it is if there is a flame or some source of heat, you want to heat that gold as a means of checking.
Mo chat zema shlo te ze papa ni jewo. Se yo ba noro kanga zema yina ko lo son do dawa chi te yong gares.
So what happens here is that if there's just a very thin layer of gold leaf or a thin layer of a substance that is similar to gold, when you're heating it, what happens is you can see that that is just a very thin layer and that there's something that is not gold beneath it. So that's a little bit like these manifest phenomena, right? With a little bit of checking and a little bit of personal experience, we can see them quite clearly.
Nolo se mombo te kandawo ndawo te si yo na.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sheka te chazma.
Right.
Tenisi jaw ko lila wa ko to marwas.
But let's say that your dishonest goldsmith is a little bit more clever. So rather than just covering a piece of iron or something in a leaf of gold, what he or she does.
Nolo yoala se yo ba mare cha yo ba che.
Yeah.
Shulu mombo chela o ze topo.
Right. So what they do is they just have a smaller piece of iron but a very thick layer of gold, because they know that if the layer is thick enough, if you heat it, you won't be able to kind of perceive that there's something else underneath just through heating it. So this second one is, so the first one is the manifest phenomena, right? Very easily you heat it, you see that it's a thin layer. Yeah, and the second one is the hidden phenomena, right? Which has the thicker layer of gold. Right. So with this thicker layer of gold, which is like this hidden phenomena, you can't just heat it. You have to actually cut through the bar of gold to make sure that it is totally gold.
다 되래. 다 된 무시 다리 자자 때에서 디사모
Right.
못봐도 동반이도 써야 되지.
Right.
인지 민자.
Vale.
리파 뭐지라 된 제일 쉐바시 그래.
So this gold bar that you have to cut is the analogy for the hidden phenomena. So in Buddhism, these are topics like subtle impermanence, like emptiness and so forth, that are not going to be immediately apparent just when we think about it. We're going to have to use careful reasoning and contemplation to come to an understanding.
리파 뭐라 때니 제고시 주고시 드네 칼레칼 와요 그래.
So through collecting many reasonings, right, we then engage in an analytical meditation. This takes us to a placement meditation, and then after this we can come to an understanding. So this is a hidden phenomenon.
디스와 다 선바테. 저도 세 베트 테테.
Yeah.
돈번이 좀 봐도 다 거기 저거와.
Yeah.
대노지 파지죠요나.
Yeah.
멜테나 하고 말에 제바이나 하고 또 말에.
So the third one, extremely hidden phenomena, to go back to the gold analogy, this is a dishonest goldsmith who is the most clever. So what they've done is they have melted together the gold with other types of metals. So the gold and the other types of metals are totally mixed together.
다 telawona 같아 가르거서 돌 다가레스.
Yeah. Hagosan. Yeah. And so how do you determine then whether it is pure gold or whether it has been mixed when heated with another metal? You have to continuously rub it.
다기 다 코먹에 좀 만나 볼리는 거로 왔어.
Yeah.
드니 코먹다와 때때때 용거 알았어.
So Geshe says how this works is you're not polishing it, but as you rub it, little particles will fall out, and then you'll be able to see if there's a grain of gold mixed with a grain of iron, for example.
자자 깔레 카쇼데 현도 군주.
So this is similar to the extremely hidden phenomenon, and the extremely hidden phenomena are the ones that are the most difficult to see.
다때 손지가 또 룰라요다.
Los.
룰라 때니. 드니오 제바 뭐 샤요 알았어.
So for those, we can't just rely on reasonings, we have to rely on scriptural citations. So scriptural citations from the Buddha, we can contemplate those, and then slowly as we develop, we might be able to understand. Dinsope, Shindu.
션도 군주 빼서나 달릴 빼지야 거대 워치 잡아 얘는 빼는 알아서 단다 간드는 로주시 깨지시기 알아왔어. 디저 디센들이 녀만들이 다완들이 녀만들이 디센들이 절 쏴바래 세대션도 군주들.
So I asked Geshe for an example of the extremely hidden phenomena. And so the example is we could have a gathering like this. All of us are gathered here listening to and discussing the Dharma. So to be able to say that for each of us who is present or who will listen, when we accumulated the karma to have this opportunity, at what instance we accumulated the karma to have this opportunity, and through what particular causes and conditions we accumulated to have this opportunity, this would be an extremely hidden phenomenon. So this is why it is said that cause and effect, that karma, are extremely hidden and profound. In fact, to kind of penetrate them completely is more difficult than understanding emptiness. Right. So that doesn't mean that an understanding of them is impossible and eventual realization isn't possible. It just means we can't rely on our own reasonings. We have to rely on the scriptures and then through our own realization. So the extremely hidden phenomena, we can't come to an understanding of these without having faith and relying upon the scriptural pronouncements of a Buddha. So for example, karma being extremely profound and so forth. So here Geshe said it's talking about revealing what was hidden, which means an understanding of emptiness. Loso.
이 sad.
So I want to tell you just a trick here as Geshe-la explains this gloss commentary. So the order of, so the translator, to make it, I think, more understandable in English, does the sentences in a completely different order than they appear in the Tibetan. So actually Geshe-la is explaining she is perhaps that is and is not first. Second, and then the next line first. So anyway, when we say is and is not, this is having a discussion about the things that we experience within the three worlds, the various tastes, touches, forms, and so forth, because from one perception, they are, right? It is means that they are there.
어떻게 가면 조금 더 담고.
말해. 특할래 카프레 슬로카 페 축사스와 인지는.
야. 내 말에 내 공부에 어떤 데 로와리트인데 저 개발할 때는 지금 대화 용거래 좀 먹여와라 때네 지금 중앙 용거래 해서 대중에 내설을 요 빠지래.
So what is are these various, sort of facts of our experience, right? That there are certain unpleasant things that lead to suffering, that there are pleasant things that lead to happiness. We know that pleasant results come from virtuous causes that are accumulated. We know that suffering results come from unwholesome causes that are accumulated. So all of that is there. So is, Geshe-la said, not just an easy single word, because is pointing at all relative phenomena, right? Or some people would say conventional.
This one?
Yeah.
Yep.
So is not, what is this saying? Well, it's saying, okay, all of the all of the things that are there, right? They are there. But if you look for some sort of findable essence, if you try to see that they exist in the way that they appear, they do not. So that's what is not is expressing. Yeah. Loma. So these flowers, if you ask where's the flower, is there a flower that is there? This is the flower that is, right? But then if you try to find that findable, pinpointable flower somewhere within that, then you have the various leaves, the various twigs, and so forth. And as you go through all those parts, then that flower, which seemed to really be there, it won't seem so findable.
This one,
So that is expressing ultimate truth. Okay. Yes, yeah. So this is another thing which is, so I'm going to have to look carefully at this because there is yin yamos, roa? Ayin yamo kawadu. Ayin yamo. Yeah, so there is something that is here in the English, in the Tibetan, which I don't see in the English. It's ayin yamo. So I guess maybe that's what they're saying quietly spoken. But anyways, there's a word here from the author which is just saying like, this is the best that I understand, or this, it's like, is it perhaps like that? Or I think it's perhaps like that. So it's a humility marker.
This one, what I was saying,
So Geshe-la is saying, Kedrip, you don't need to read the English translation, just say what I'm saying. But of course, I want to clarify to make it easier for you guys. This diverse subject-object world is my mother's gentle smile, the cycle of birth and death, her deceptive words. I don't know what the problem is. Like, I'm just reading from the paper. Don't read from the paper. Yep. So here we're talking about subject and object. Right. Shepa mayimpa. Right. Right.
대마인 비네스 강가 라와 공바 메도 강가 중화세 되는 로비아레스.
Zungwa. So the object is referring to any type yulkarina zungwa
시바마이나 시바마이바.
is referring to any object that is not consciousness, anything that is not consciousness.
좀바세나 시바 강가.
Right. Subject is or the apprehender, I would say apprehender, is something that anything that is consciousness.
된다 치유주 대 중화도 전반은 로비아레스.
Right. So all phenomena can be put into, I would say apprehender and apprehended is better than subject object here. So all phenomena can be classified into apprehender and apprehended.
준준나 존데서 치유주 로타송아스.
So the diverse subject-object world, within that we have all phenomena. So we're talking about all phenomena.
된다 시바도 시바마인 비 된다 치유스 조바데. 아민 저바 아마세리 세그tumani.
Ale. So all of those objects, both consciousness and non-consciousness, in other words, all phenomena, is the mother's gentle smile. So what is the mother's gentle smile? Here we know we're speaking about emptiness.
멤버서서 노소다.
Ale.
아마세나.
Yeah.
아민 저바 말다.
Ale.
아마세나 세그tumani.
Oh, sorry. So when we talk about not the mother's gentle smile, just the mother, when we talk about the mother, we know we're speaking about emptiness.
아민 저바 세
Yeah.
나로서 게모쇼나레 오나 돈바 나포테 바이나레
Right.
강가 세그 노진라고 지레스.
Ale. So the gentle smile means that all of these are expressions, like we see a smile or a frown. All that we perceive are these expressions of the mother.
그래서
Yeah.
내 노지 치유주데 세그 tumani 그 노진라고 지레드.
So therefore, all the phenomena that we experience, they are expressions arising from the emptiness of the mind. Chukare tongna simgi tompanigi nyamgyures.
너 노는 tumani 더 tum명원에 세그도 스탠다고 강가 tum방원에 더 치유와 지레.
So Geshe said it's like your tantric sadhana where we say everything dissolves into emptiness. Then we say from the sphere of emptiness. So it's just like that.
그래서 시제 본전의 아미지치.
The cycle of birth and death, her deceptive words.
나로서 코알 코니를 땡데 열라 주니가 돈에 코알 용주 코니를 다시 와도 처음 담아도 요하라.
Yeah.
대지우 tumban이지 요하이자.
Yeah.
근데 달라티는 좋아한다고 지레드.
So similarly, the 12 links of dependent origination are cycles through samsara and the experience of birth and death. These also arise from emptiness. So therefore, they are the mother's deceptive words.
된다 코와도. 용대 타바 용주 하고서라 tumban이지 요하이자. 근데 내서 때 강가 용화 지레드.
So whether we speak of samsara, whether we speak of liberation, any other phenomena, they are all arising from emptiness. Chasanwa tompanile.
tumban이지 요하이자. 로제메바지이자.
They are all empty of inherent existence, therefore they all arise from the mother.
다 지세 요하다 요보다가래. 로지지 저대 요하나?
Yep.
나는 요한도야 제도 지엘라 때는 요야 말아왔어.
If they existed truly, if they were inherently existent, right, they would be stable. They would not be changing and impermanent from moment to moment.
다 던지지자 tumban이 그 체조 잘라바이나. 예라 마티바 메바스.
Right. So when we say empty, we mean empty of arising without depending on something else. In other words, arising independently.
릴라워질라바이나 예질라 때니 요바데 tumban이 체이사나 가로진도 요하레스.
So, we could also say emptiness, you could do a positive presentation of that. Emptiness means that it is arising in dependence upon something else.
다 라서 셈무가. 다원아 고자기는 가서 나 세아데 코르 이제되죠.
Yep.
로지 저바 요 말에.
Yeah.
이제 가르래. 땡주저와 제고선은 던자 다 전에 저 땡주 비지지 손도 그야래.
Okay, so then when we think about the I, right, we can say that there is this I, but then is it truly existent? No, it's not truly existent because it is coming forth as a dependent arising and it is existing from moment to moment. And so that's how we would do an analytical meditation on emptiness. Yeah. So that's an analytical meditation rather than a placement. So now we are going to dedicate the merits. So we'll dedicate the merits. And then, of course, if you need to get on with your day, I realize our session was a bit longer today. If you need to get on with your day, please do. But we will have time for questions. Changshu semchu rinpoche maje panam chejur chi chewa nyamba meba yang gone gondo bewa sho tongni tawa rinpoche maje panam chejur chi chewa nyamba meba yang gone gondo bewa sho jambe bao jinda kyamba tang kondo zombo deyon dejo de deda kunji jesu dalo chir gewa deda donje radungo duzun shebi gewa donje ge mowa gangla chodu ngaba de dagi ge tsawa nigo kyan zambo choji radungo wargi Gangri rawe korwe jingam dir pendam dewa malu jongwe ne chenre ziwan tenzen gyatso yi shape side bardu tenjor chi. Oh, Jesus. So yeah, we'll take questions if there are any. Are there any questions? Don't be shy.
I have a question. Well,
Dave, yes, go ahead.
It seems to me that this mother being deceiving I would argue that it should be mothers being confusing, because deception implies intent, and I don't think the mother's being emptiness is trying to deceive us. I think it's just it's on our side that we have the confusion. I was struggling with that translation.
So I'm looking at so we'll ask this to Geshe-la for sure, but I'm looking at the Tibetan, because I definitely couldn't do a better job, so I'm not going to critique the translation, because I would not be able to translate a text like this. But that aside, ame zumbak, zoom. So zoom it's like a falsehood or a lie. So in this sense, the Tibetan is saying that. But you want to ask, like, is it better to say confusing than lie? Shall I ask Geshe-la that? Yeah. Then the ama nganso di sumba di rwa ame zumbak. Zumbak kechi. Yeah. Ame zunsik yang yere rwa. Zunsen a pet zuma rwa. Yine ama tompa ni yine dene zuma lab tugire bes. Go tomya labna yaga mendros.
Zumsena. No noji meba.
Right. So what Geshe-la is saying is that nangwa nangshin mepa is that the deceptive refers to not existing in the way that they appear, not existing in the way that they appear relative phenomena. So understand the deceptive as pointing at that. Listen. Yeah. So relative phenomena. Yeah. So you could say all relative phenomena are deceptive from that perspective, right? And that they don't exist in the way that they appear. So that's what the deception is referring to. Because remember, like any relative phenomena that we see, our first apprehension is that appearance that it's truly existent and then it's really there, right? But ultimately, that's not how it is. Right. Ale, Candice. Right. So Geshe-la said that in this way, he's going to use the analogy that, like, think of like the appearance, the false appearance of these relative phenomena as like that person who you know really doesn't like you, but they still smile at you every time they see you. The smile is not a true expression of their feelings. Yeah, it's a politician's smile or laugh. It's a politician's smile or laugh. So there is that aspect, right? And Geshe said here you could say also confusing go tomyagi nangwa. There is that confusing aspect that any phenomena we look at, it has together with it this appearance of inherent existence, right? That's the problem. Right. So when our eye consciousness just appears, for example, those flowers, the eye consciousness just perceives an object, but it can't apprehend the object. It doesn't, the eye consciousness itself, right? Just the bare eye consciousness itself, it cannot apprehend those flowers as truly existent. According to the, so this, according, there's always a caveat. According to the Prasangika view, So what is apprehending the true existence of the flowers or the inherent existence of the flowers? The mental consciousness, right? Because the mental consciousness can apprehend both the object's mere appearance of that object and, right, that appearance of inherent existence. So any of the five sense consciousnesses, right, they cannot perceive Right. So in the same way, these five sense consciousnesses, they cannot perceive emptiness. We can't use our five sense consciousnesses to perceive emptiness. Only the mental consciousness can perceive that. So the mental consciousness is not the one that apprehends the appearance of true existence. Likewise, it is the mental consciousness only that can realize emptiness, that overcomes that apprehension of true existence. So that's not something that happens on the sense level. But the principle here, right, is that any sort of phenomena that we're perceiving, let's say seeing in this instance, that comes together with an appearance of true existence, right? Right. Right. So that is when we talk about all of these objects, right, that are perceived by you as a subject. We talk about these objects, zinpa. It has this kind of connotation of it's apprehended. Right. It has when you look at the Tibetan vocabulary, there's this sense of there is an appearance that comes together with this object of something that's not really there. Right. Semgi tombani ne norshar. Semgi tombani ne norshar na lavna tezkenza chagire. Na yabu komasong konda. Yeah. So all of these things that appear to us, all of these appearances that are constantly coming and fluctuating, this sort of continuity is possible because of semgi tombanidi, because of the emptiness of the mind and because of the lack of permanence of the mind. So all of these are expressions of sem tombanigi nangjore, tombanigi nangjore. Right. All of these are expressions of the emptiness of the mind. Yeah. So like to make it an easy understand, right? Like we have all these expressions on our faces, right? Faces are very expressive. They're all expressions of something that's going on within the mind, right? Yeah, so we could say expressions of the mind, expressions of the mind's emptiness, expressions of the empty mind. That's the principle.
Couldn't you say that the senses are non-deceptive because the mistake is the mind adding inherent existence to something that doesn't have it?
Wampo nga din so lua mepas lab tugire base karin sena sem nangshin konso rangjin gi drupa gi nangwa jargi omares roa.
Mare lo mepas ge mares. Lo mepas ma cha lo mepan ro tu chi yares.
Right.
So
Geshe said you get into problems, you could say that they're, unmistaken in terms of their perception, but the problem is that all relative phenomena are said to be kandeslaugure. Kunzob denpa chatsama kandesre? Lowaresana? Yeah, all relative phenomena are said to be false in some sense. So if you phrase it that way, you run into problems. Right. But it's very much a contextual thing, because you can talk about an unmistaken sense apprehension of a particular object, right? So the language is very contextual here. Right. But, our sense consciousnesses can deceive us with the snow mountain that you perceive as blue, right? With the mirage that you are apprehending, with the direction that something is going. Sometimes things are actually going in the opposite direction of how they're perceived. Yeah, sometimes you perceive like a circle of light around a butter lamp that you have lit, right? But there's not actually a circle of light around the butter lamp. Yeah. Yeah. So those are sort of mistaken, aren't they? But they're perceived by the sense consciousness.
I've always struggled with the phrase that all relative phenomena are incorrect or mistaken, because if you are Nagarjuna, who understood the harmony of dependent arising and emptiness, dependent arising would not be mistaken.
But is dependent arising and relative phenomena the same thing? Is that what you're asking?
Are they not?
Then nganso kunzup dempa chat sangwa lua res roa ditets nortru re dua karin sena gompo nundrup iana roa ko netso kariana tension res roa dene nortru mepada wachagire duas.
Mimitate kon roto ji lato ji roas dan zamba do loa sa te.
Yeah.
Nanzo no wa tagaro senjinika no gidi. Demataba no gre.
Yeah.
Tel demataba yama roas ti chanela.
No, but Geshe says this is contextual, Dave. So we have to be very contextual about what we're speaking about now. We're speaking about how any relative phenomena that is apprehended together with this appearance of true existence, right? So in this context, right, they're mistaken. That's why we say like that.
Yeah, a non-enlightened context.
Yeah. So in terms of things that are apprehended and things that are true, the only apprehended thing which is completely true is emptiness itself, actually. When you speak from that perspective, right? So these are perspectives, right? Sorry, not perspectives. Yes. Contexts is a better word. So when you speak, so when you speak from that, I have to get it out. So when you speak from that context, takes me a minute to think. Then they're all false, right? Relative phenomena. Right. Yeah. So Geshe said dependent arising. It's a different context, right? You're looking at the arising of phenomena and how they arise dependently, in dependence upon something else. So when you're speaking using that language, whatever is arising dependently is possible, therefore is true. And whatever is arising in the absence of dependent arising is untrue, right? So it's a different context. Yeah. And the trick is that both relative and ultimate phenomena are dependent arisings, right? Neither relative nor ultimate phenomena arise independently.
야 그러 야 이사 라틴에 나와 로도스
Yeah, so it's kare sul
타코 자사지 와라 제세지 델라 때는 담아다 미다야
right. Yeah, so that's why, you know, the language is going to be used differently in different contexts. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I just think of saying that all relative phenomena are false is kind of counter to Mañjuśrī's advice to Tsongkhapa to focus on dependent arising rather than solely on emptiness. You know, because I guess I'm conflating.
Sorry, start from the beginning. What? Start from the beginning. Tell me again.
I always found it interesting that Mañjuśrī told Tsongkhapa to focus on dependent arising, not on emptiness.
Right.
Because then it's the whole picture, and so that to me then that means that dependent arising, or I'm conflating relative phenomena with dependent arising.
I think that these are things that. So this is Kedrup talking. I think that, Dave, these are things that have to be cultivated symbiotically. It's not like all at once and all together, right? And then as they're cultivated symbiotically, you come to an understanding. I think you're thinking this all has to fit together in a logical progression, but contextually that doesn't work.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's just what I think. Anyways, but so what do you want to ask, Geshe-la? Why Mañjuśrī told Tsongkhapa to focus on dependent arising?
No, it's okay. It's just a. I think it's anyway. No worries. It's just a feeling I have. So no problem.
Sorry, Dave.
No problem. No,
it's no problem.
I think we just go around in circles. Yeah.
Ko dene Tsongkhapa di tompa ni. Jampe yang Tsongkhapa di tompa ni mata tenchung so da buchik tashos labne roa dene chatsang wa tenchung res.
tumani tumbi chal ta chene la.
Yeah.
On tenju te si thoyal te es ba jing ga
Yeah.
Kare tel te sta chimbu si shus tenju shu.
Yeah. Karin sen that ko tompa ni tes yapo hako son tenchu hako ma son igim sen kare.
Mara tumani la ta che so na.
Yeah.
Che tal ndo yin ga ji yung yo wa za ma chena.
Right. So this advice was given to Tsongkhapa on a very particular occasion because he was focusing so much on emptiness that he was falling into a danger of nihilism. And so because he was in that particular situation, Mañjuśrī advised him also cultivate dependent arising, right?
Right. Got it.
Yeah, there is one tane legendary to tane senche ke tane kowa to nyon desi ate jin es kanga chilo no za ma chena.
Because if you are taking emptiness in the absolute in that sense, then you're in the danger of falling into a nihilism, which is denying cause and effect, denying dependent arising, and then you run into problems. So he saw very clearly that now was the time to focus on that. Yeah, because there's some people that say because everything is empty, nothing matters, nothing exists. Just whatever you do is fine, right? So if you're not careful, that can fall into like a hedonistic kind of view,
sure.
Right?
Or something that doesn't help sentient beings.
Yeah. Because if you're taking it as in a really absolute sense like that, then why do you develop love and compassion for sentient beings? That's the danger, right? You start to fall into those mistakes.
Yeah, this is why I really love this idea of dependent arising being the focus, because in my mind this emphasizes the pathway to helping sentient beings, because sentient beings are kind of a relative phenomenon. We're stuck in relative phenomena, which to me is a dependent arising. I got your gist, Dave. We'll continue, but I want to get this part because otherwise, I just want to get this part. Then tension di ruwa. Nanso jen penchik drogi yore karinsen the same jen so yore di chatsang was yore then pengi re do toni chipo yana di kala kabura which. Yeah, so that's nothing wrong with that. That's correct. Yeah. So that gives me energy to think on that from that perspective or context. Yeah.
야 간저 니야 간저 타가 차 강가로 야지도 야 쪼치 때 땡주 거로 보게 지세
Yeah, so Geshe-la says that like you still have to cultivate method and wisdom, right? And with the way you're expressing it, this type of understanding of dependent arising informs our method practice, our love and compassion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I love
Does
it.
anyone else have questions? I don't see any yellow hands. That's
Nothing from
nothing from socials
see.
either.
No,
Okay,
no.
folks are feeling quiet. That's okay too. So
I
shall
think
we leave it
Geshe-la's
here?
teachings are so brilliant. There's no question.
So Geshe said it's okay that he went like over time. I was a bit worried. Oh, maybe there's no time for questions. He said there was plenty of time, so you got more explanation from Geshe. So and he says his scary story he's going to tell next time. So that's the trailer. That's the trailer.
Sean, you're unmuted. Do you have a question, Sean?
Just wanted to say hi, everybody.
Good to see you.
Hi, Sean. Long time no see.
Tell me about it. That will change. That has changed.
Great.
Thanks for the teaching, both of you.
Well, no, thank you so much, and it's nice to hear a familiar voice. Yeah. All right. So yeah, Disum.
Yeah.
So we'll end it here. Thank you so much, everybody. And we will see you next Sunday. And keep up with our programs on the newsletter. Thank you so much, everybody.